So hello guys, so today we will be discussing about equation of a straight line, which is a very important chapter with respect to ICSE exam. At least you can expect two questions from this chapter in your main paper. So it's a very critical chapter because it governs all the other concepts also. So having a good hold on this chapter will enable you to score good percentage of marks in the exam because two questions come from this chapter. So let's get started. So we'll first be discussing about equation of the line, like what are the concepts that govern this, post which we'll do a few examples to understand how well we can build on this chapter. Okay, so I'll just write it down here, equation of a line. So before understanding that, let me just give you an overview of the Cartesian system, like how does the graphs work. So this is your y-axis, this is your x-axis, this is your positive x, this is your negative x, this is your positive y, and this is your negative y. O is the origin, which is the intersection point of both the axes. And before getting into to understand what is the equation of a line, you should first understand that how is a line formed. A line is formed by 2 points. When 2 points meet together, then there's a line forming. So let us consider that there is a line A, B, and with A has a coordinate of x1, y1 and B has a coordinate of x2, y2. So what we mean to do is we need to find the equation of this line. So but before finding the equation, there is another preliminary step that we need to follow, is to find out the slope of this line. Means that without finding the slope, we will not be able to compute the equation of this line. So finding slope is the first primary step that you should understand, and then only we'll be able to compute the equation. So the primary formula for finding the slope of two lines is represented by m. M stands for slope of the line, and it is given by x y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So in any scenario in the exam, if you get a question where two coordinates are given and that joins a line with x1 and y1 and x2 and y2 given, then you can simply compute the slope using this formula, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, after this step you have got the value of m. Now using this value of m, you need to find the equation of the line. Okay, so equation of the line is something that is of the form like this, like 2x plus 3y equal to 6. Imagine this is an equation. So this is actually a line on the graphical plane. So what we need to do is, using these two coordinates that joins the line, we need to find an equation, and in finding that equation we will be requiring this value of slope that we will calculate using this formula. So equation of the line is given by y minus y1 equal to mx minus x1. Now you need to be very careful that y and x will remain as it is, and the only value that we will be putting here will be m, which will come from here, y1 which is this, and x1 which is this, and using this we will find the equation of the line in terms of x and y. So these are the two main vital formulas in this chapter, in which you will need to find the slope and then you can find the equation of the line. And this is only possible when 2 points are known, like the two points which are joining the line. If any of the one point is not known, then you will not be able to compute the slope and hence the equation. So this case only works when you have 2 points given in the Cartesian system of plane. So this was the first concept that we discussed with respect to equation of the line. Now let's jump on to another one. Okay. So the second concept here is that if you have a Cartesian plane, again x, x dash, y, y dash, and this is your origin. Now say that I have a line drawn like this. So this line is inclined towards the y-axis on the x-axis. So it will be making an angle theta, right? Theta is an angle, it can be anything. Theta can be either 30, 45, 60, it can be any number. So what we'll do is we need to find the equation of this line. So for finding the equation, we need to first find the slope, as I discussed it earlier. So here you don't know the points, alright? Here we are assuming that we don't know these points. I don't know this, I don't know this, and how I'll find the slope? That's the question. So there is a method to that. In order to find the slope, the formula for slope will be m, which is the slope, is equal to tan theta, tan of this theta. Now this theta can be anything. 30, 45, 60, you can put, so I am assuming that it is 30. So I'll put here tan 30, which is 1 by root 3. So my slope for this line, the slope is 1 by root 3. Now using this slope, if I know any one of these points, like if I know either this point or this point, I will be putting it in the equation's formula y minus y1 equal to mx minus x1, and I will be knowing the x1 and y1's value, and I know the slope from here, I will be able to compute the equation. So these are the two main process or the categories of questions in order to find the slope and hence find the equation, which is very vital. Alright. So these are the two functions or the two basic kind of questions that you will tackle in your exam also. And this is very vital and important for your exam's point of view. So we discussed this. Now I'll jump on to the next concept. So the next concept is that any point on the x-axis, has y equal to 0. Now what does this mean? Like if I have my Cartesian plane like this, and if I select any point on the x-axis, this is my x-axis. If I select here like this point, say this is 3. So you can see it from your screen only that this is 3, 0, like this point will be 3, 0. So the y component of this is automatically 0. Similarly, if you put it 2 here, so this is 2, 0. So hence the y component is again 0. If I keep a point like this minus 3, then it is what? Minus 3, 0. Again the y component is 0. So what did we see? That in each of the lines lying on the x-axis, the y component is always 0. This is a critical concept and it is very applicable in many of the questions. The examiner will test you using these simple sentences in order to find out whether you know the concept or not. Similarly, any point on the y-axis has x0. It's opposite. I'll give you an example. If I take any point here, say 4. So what will be the coordinate of this point? It will be 0, 4. So the x component is 0. If I take it here 6, 0, 6, again the x component is 0. If I take it as, sorry, my bad, this is minus 4, minus 6 because it is on the negative y. If I take a point here as 3, it will be 0, 3. Again the x component is 0. So you should remember two critical concepts, that any point on the x-axis has y0 and any point on the y-axis has x0. So this was our third concept. Now let's jump on to the fourth concept, which is that if the examiner tries to give you an equation, just assume that the examiner gives you an equation like this and tells you to find the slope of this equation. So in this case, what has happened? An equation has been given to you, presented to you. Now you need to find the slope of this equation. Let's see how you'll do that. So any equation of a straight line can be represented in the form of y equal to mx plus c, where m is your slope and c is your y-intercept. So what I need to do is, I need to just convert this in this form. If I'm able to do that, I'll be able to find m, which is my slope. So let's see how we'll do that. 3x plus 7y equal to 1. What I'll do is, I'll take 3x that side. So it will become 7y is equal to minus 3x plus 1. And then I'll put 7 here in the downside because it is here multiplied. So anything which is multiplied in one side, when it goes to the other side, becomes divided. So y is equal to minus 3x plus 1 by 7. Alright. Post which I'll distribute this 7 equally between 1 and 7. So it will become something like this. Alright. So here you can clearly see that this is my m according to this equation and this is my c according to this equation. If you just map it. So I can see that my slope is minus 3 by 7 and my y-intercept, which is represented by c, is 1 by 7. So using this process, you can find out the slope when an equation has been presented to you in the question. Alright, so let's get on to the next concept, which is midpoint formula. Let me just change the color of the ink. Midpoint formula. Now what do you mean by midpoint? Let me give you an example real quick. Let's see, this is a 4 centimeter line. I'm not sure whether it is actually 4 centimeter, but let's assume that it is a 4 centimeter line. If I divide it in the middle, it will be cut into 2 equal parts. This is 2 centimeter, this is 2 centimeter. So this point acts as the midpoint, means the middle point of this line. So in an exam scenario, if you are given a line, say a is equal to x1 y1, b is equal to x2 y2, and you need to find the coordinates of this midpoint m. So there is a method. The formula is m, let us say it is x comma y, is equal to x1 plus x2 by 2, which is x1 plus x2 by 2, comma y1 plus y2 by 2, y1 plus y2 by 2. So this is your formula for finding the midpoint of any line. Like if you have the A coordinate, if you have the B coordinate, then you can find the midpoint using this formula. Let's go into the next topic. So the next thing is distance formula. Now what do you mean by distance? Distance is the actual length of the path, right? It is the length of the path. So you can find the length of the path. Let's say you have 2 points, again A x1 y1 and B x2 y2. You can find the distance between these two paths using this formula itself. I am drawing it for illustrative purposes. So distance formula is given by root of x2 minus x1's whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square. You have x1, you have y1, you have x2, you have y2. Put it in this formula, get the value of distance, which is always measured in units of meter or centimeter, whatever. Alright, so this was the distance formula. Now let's jump on to the next concept, which is section formula. What do you mean by section formula? Section means to break it down into parts, right? Parts. So the section formula will be something like this: A x1 y1, again I am assuming the same thing, x2 y2. Now look here, if I want to divide this line or by a point P, this is not the midpoint, okay? It can be any distance, like this can be 2 cm, this can be 10 cm, or in any ratio. I want to find the coordinates of this. How can I do that? Let's see. So P is my point at which this intersection is occurring. So Px comma y, it's given in the question by your examiner that this point P divides the line in the ratio of m is to n. Means this part is m and this part is n. So the formula for finding out this value of P where this intersection is occurring is given by mx2 plus nx1 divided by m plus n, my2 plus ny1 divided by m plus n. So using this formula you can find out the value of this P. Alright. Now I'm going to show you something more to this which is not present generally. Let's say I am assuming that this line whatever we had drawn P is actually your midpoint. Okay, I am assuming this. So I just said that since it is the midpoint, so this part and this part will be equal. Just because this part and this part is equal, so they have to be in the same ratio. So I'll say they are in the ratio 1:1. Perfect. Since they are in the same ratio, so P is your midpoint. So Px comma y, if you put m and n as 1, let's see what happens. So this will become 1 into x2 plus 1 into x1, and at down it will become 1 plus 1. 1 into y2 plus 1 into y1, and this will become 1 plus 1. So this becomes x1 plus x2 by 2, and this becomes y1 plus y2 by 2. This was the exact same formula which we discussed just a few slides back. This is the formula for the midpoint. So this is the general format of that formula, and if you put x2 and if you put m and n as 1 because it is acting as the midpoint, you will get the actual midpoint formula. So this was the entire derivation for finding the midpoint. Now let's jump on to a few more concepts which is of centroid. Now let me tell you what is a centroid. Let's draw 3 points: x1 y1, b x2 y2, and c is x3 y3. Now if I'm able to join A and B, if I'm able to join B and C, and if I'm able to join A and C, you'll get a triangle, obviously. Now let's say P is the midpoint of AB, Q is the midpoint of BC, and AC's midpoint is R. And if I join these midpoints, okay, or let me don't join this midpoint, let's draw these lines. It's going to intersect somewhere in the middle, right? It's going to intersect somewhere in the middle. So the point of intersection of all these, okay, let me tell you before that these midpoints when joined by a line are called medians. They are called medians. So if I have a line like this AB, and this is the midpoint, if I draw a line across this, this is my median. Okay. So these yellow lines are my median, and where they intersect, this green part, this is called the centroid, C. So the point of intersection of the medians is called the centroid. Since there are 3 sides in a triangle, so there will be 3 medians, and wherever these 3 medians intersect, that is called the centroid. Now there is a formula for finding the centroid when x1 y1, x2 y2, and x3 y3 is given. It is cx comma y. Let's don't call it c, let's call it okay, let's call this c dash. Okay, this is c dash because I've already used c, so I'll put it as c dash. So c dash, which is the centroid, is given by x1 plus x2 plus x3 by 3, y1 plus y2 plus y3 by 3. So this is x1, this is x2, this is x3, this is y1, this is y2, this is y3. So using this formula you can find the centroid if the 3 points are given to you. Alright. Now let's discuss one more important concept, which is of parallelism and perpendicularity. Now this is also a very important chapter, means a concept within the chapter of equation of a straight line, and you get at least one question in your ICSE exam from this concept. So it's very, very important. Let's see what do we have here. So let us consider two lines. So if two lines are moving and if they're never meeting, so we call them as parallel lines. If two lines are traveling and they will never meet, means they will never intersect, then those two lines are called parallel lines. Okay. So let's say this line has a slope m1 and this line has a slope m2. We just discussed that m is the slope. This is m1, this is m2. So if two lines are parallel, then the relationship existing between their slopes is m1 equal to m2. Alright. Similarly, this is the first case and this is only called parallelism. Similarly, the second case is if there are two lines which are at 90 degree or at perpendicular to each other, and if one has a slope m1 and the other has a slope m2, then the relationship between them is m1 multiplied m2 is minus 1. So these are the two key concepts that you must remember while solving questions from these chapters. Okay, so I think we have discussed all the different concepts for this chapter on equation of a straight line. So I'll try to show you some few problems, like what kind of questions you will get like in the exam. Like I'll just give you one example, that slope of one line is given, say 2, and it's said that the other line which is perpendicular to it, that slope is not known to you, and you need to find that equation of that other line, given that there is a point in that line, say 3, 2. So what you're going to do, you know one line m1 and you need to find another line which is perpendicular to it, and there is a point on this perpendicular line which is 3, 2. So what you need to do is you need to find this equation. How will you do? First of all, you need to use this m1, and since it is perpendicular, you need to find m2 using this relation. So m1 is 2, m2 you don't know, you need to find that. So by solving this, you will get m2 as minus half. So here now you know the value of m2 and you have got 1 point, so you can directly find the equation which is given by the formula y is equal to y1 mx minus x1. Y we don't know, we'll keep it like that. Y1 we know, we are considering this as x1 and y1. So y minus 2, m2 we'll put it here, so minus half, x minus x1, x1 is 3. If you solve this equation, you will get your equation. So see, these kinds of questions will only come in the exam where they'll try to check whether you know all the concepts or not. So if you're looking for any help or any coaching in with respect to mathematics for class 6 to 10, you can contact me in this number. This is my mobile number. You can directly WhatsApp me, or you can just drop me a call or a message, would work, or you can also email me. This is my email ID for any help regarding to any concepts in maths. I'll surely like to get in touch with you and know your problems and give you the solutions that you need. Okay, so this was the entire concept that we discussed. Thanks for watching this video. Please do subscribe this channel. This is a new channel and I'm trying to propagate all the learnings that I've had in the entire last 10 years of my teaching career. Thank you. Bye bye.